Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, we've been reacting to that statement specifically, and when we broke the news on Sky Sports News and on Sky News here last night. And for the first time, we can get some official fan reaction here. I'm joined by Duncan Draslow, the Chief Executive of the Manchester United Supporters Trust. Duncan, let's go back to that official statement. Obviously, the news came out and emerged that the Glazer family are open to a sale. When you saw the statement, what was your reaction as an organisation?
Well, look, I mean, every United fan knows that we're desperately in need of new capital investment into the club for the stadium redevelopment, to back the manager, to put the club back where it should be, competing at the top in the Premier League and in Europe. And we just are not able to secure that under the current ownership. The problem we've got is the share structure they created, which is beneficial for them, puts off anybody else coming in and investing into the club. So we need a new ownership structure if we're going to get that investment. I think that's the conclusion that the Glazer family have reached themselves now, having tried to, every mechanism they could to bring in investment while they retained ownership. So I think this is the start of the end for their ownership of Manchester United.
Is that the key here then, because of the way they restructured the shares, that essentially it's going to be a complete sale or no sale as far as you see it? Because in the statement it did suggest they were potentially open to outside investment coming in.
I'm sure they would be open to that, but I just cannot see why anybody would invest a significant amount into Manchester United and then be there with sort of subservient shares that mean that they are, at the behest of the Glazers' will, rather than, being equal shareholders with everyone having the same voting rights. I think that's the key problem here. If they get rid of the dual share class now, I think it's possible that they could then bring in an investor. But I don't think that's necessarily what they want. Every bit of information we've received suggests that many, if not the majority of the other family members would actually welcome the opportunity to sell now. So I think that's the most likely outcome here.
It's taken a long time. We've seen fan protests all the way back from the initial takeover, didn't we, back in 2004, 2005, right through to, I suppose, the failed European Super League bid. How has the feelings of the fans changed over the years?
I think the truth is that it hasn't really changed that much, but actually the sort of appetite for protest, etc., has changed at different times, whether that's 2010 when there was the rumours of a red night takeover. That gave people some hope. We had a resurgence then, the green and gold protest. And then, I think that died down when it looked like there wasn't going to be a bidder. And then, of course, after Sir Alex retired, we started to see success on the pitch draining away. And I think that started to fuel discontent again. But, the actual reason why fans want a different ownership structure hasn't changed at all. We recognise the value of having fans as partners in the ownership in the club, because that's what brings transparency and accountability. And actually, United fans are the club's biggest asset, even financially as well. And what the Glazers have missed out on through the way that they've managed the club and bought the club and forced us as fan shareholders to sell out is they've lost that value. And we would appeal to any new owner that's coming in to understand that the real way to unlock the value of Manchester United is to work in partnership with the fans, not use them as, exploit them as customers in effect. So really it's about all shareholders being equal, having fans with a stake in the club to work alongside new owners.
The Glazer family, off the back of the European Super League and that failed breakaway, they came out, they apologised, they admitted they'd done wrong, they said they would open increased dialogue with supporters groups like yourselves. They also suggested at the time that they would open an opportunity for fans to buy a stake in the club. Now that hasn't yet happened. How do you feel that process has been? Were they being, I suppose, have they kind of lived up to the apology and the promises they made off the back of the ESL?
I don't think anyone would conclude they've fully lived up to that, certainly. I think that they failed in a number of areas. They have made progress. We are in a better position than where we were, but I think, it's too late for that now. I think that fans have moved beyond that. The share scheme is something that would be progress, but I think we're looking at something, we really want a much bigger share scheme now. We want the opportunity to be partners with new investors rather than, sort of subservient shareholders. And I think that's where most fans feel now that, the time is for a change at United. And I think it's really important to understand we're not looking at necessarily who are the richest bidders. I don't think that's what most United fans feel they want. I think we want people who want to own the club and have the same ideals and the same goals as fans, rather than looking to extract value for themselves. It's about giving to the football club, investing in the football club and making it successful again, and working in a partnership And so that means finding the right owners, not necessarily those that are the richest.
Something I've been asked a few times on Sky Sports News over the last 12 hours or so, here last night and this morning, is why now? Why the timing now, do you think, of this statement from the Glazer family?
Yeah, I don't think it's specifically to do with the Ronaldo news or the World Cup or anything like that necessarily, although they may be convenient for one reason or another. I think this is about they've reached the end of the process. They've exhausted the other exploration into what ways they could raise new capital. I think that's the key thing. And I think they've basically concluded that it's not possible under the current structure.
And where is the biggest need, I should say, for investment? We speak about Old Trafford needing to be renovated. We also talk about Carrington and the way that's fallen down the pecking order, certainly in terms of elite training grounds. And then you see what Erik ten Hag is trying to do in terms of rebuilding the squad to challenge again for the Premier League title. How do you see it as supporters? Where are the priorities here?
Yeah, I mean, clearly all three of those are absolutely important. But I think, the biggest one in terms of expenditure is clearly the stadium. That has slipped behind over the years. And, when you look back to prior to the takeover in 2005, we were competing with Real Madrid as generating the most revenue and obviously successful on the pitch as well. And look at Madrid Stadium now and look at United's, and I think that's the problem. We need to be really ambitious, and I don't think we can do that with the current ownership structure. That's why we need ambitious new owners who want to put money into the club rather than take it out, and to work with fans, and basically that's the best future for Manchester United.
And just finally, I want to ask about the impact this could have on the current squad. I know we've got this pause for the World Cup, but it's very unlikely a takeover will be sorted before the Premier League resumes. Erik ten Hag will be facing questions on an almost weekly basis about the process and progress behind the scenes. Do you worry about the impact that could have on Manchester United in this current season?
I don't really. I mean, Ten Hag comes across as a very level-headed guy. I don't think he'll be deflected by that at all. I doubt he'll really engage on those questions, and I think that's quite right too. He concentrates on his job. It'll be up to Richard Arnold and the senior management at the club to deal with those questions rather than the football club's manager.